all online access equals risk.
It's not if it's going to happen now, it's when is it?
And he tells me that a kid on the bus showed him porn and he hasn't been able to sleep for 3 days. 15-year-olds are not supposed to be having these tantrums. 9-year-olds are not supposed to be having these. Neurotypical kids are not supposed to be having these tantrums, but the devices, especially video games, are built to suck them in and get them addicted, and so of course they don't want to stop playing. Narrating why you are picking up your phone can be very powerful for your kids, but I also just put this device in front of me that blocks him from me. And it created this huge barrier of misunderstanding. I get lost in that comparison game too, and I'm an almost 40-year-old woman who is a mental health professional falling into that trap online. So I can't even imagine a 12-year-old or a 23-year-old who is truly like, that is her job or his job to be an influencer. It is very consuming.
Welcome back to the Tech Translator Podcast, where we help families and educators navigate the tech that our kids are surrounded by today. Today's guest is someone I'm really excited to talk about, who we've known for quite a long time now, Tessa Stuckey. Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
Tessa, jumping right in, would you share a little bit more about yourself, your background, and kind of what brought you where you are?
So I'm a therapist. I started practicing about 11 years ago. And at the same time, I was a new mom. I had 4 under 4, trying to navigate toddlerhood, but going to work and working with amazing clients and families. And there was this trend happening with my teenage clients that really, really scared me as a mom and really perplexed me as a therapist. And that was that they were all having really, really dark thoughts and dark habits and normalizing it and not really fitting into the mold of what we know someone with mental illness to be. And I was working with teenagers as young as 13, 14 years old that were having these thoughts, but couldn't quite articulate. There was no abuse at the house. There was no neglect. There was not, any trauma happening. I felt like I had been thrown into this twilight zone as a new therapist and I missed something huge. And like I said, it scared me as a mom, and I lost too much sleep and I wanted to figure out what it was. And the more and more I worked with them, I decided, let's look at your screen usage, what you're doing with your phone, how you're using it, what you're exposed to, and how much you're using it, and saw such a correlation between the dependency and unhealthy use of smart devices with their mental health. And so I started working with these teenagers with these little steps, and they started to improve really quickly, not just a gradual thing, but overnight. And it just changed my parenting as a mom. I took devices away. I was the mom with the iPad ready to go at all times. I mean, it was like survival mode. And we completely shifted that in our house. And then I worked with all my clients with that perspective. And it was pretty amazing and powerful to see what it did. So I've been on a mission to help parents of the little ones do preventative care. And then the parents who kind of got stuck in that storm to reset a little bit and look at it differently.
Totally. No, amazing.
Yeah.
And author of the book, For the Sake of Our Youth, right here, out of this finding that you had that determined you writing the book?
Yeah. So our community was dealing with a suicide cluster, and we had lost a real big amount of teenagers within a year and a half. And so I was reading a news article from another local therapist about teens and suicide, and there was no mention of anything with screens or social media. And I thought, not even the therapists all know about this, and parents need to know this. So I sat down to literally write to the newspaper to see if they would interview me and maybe I could write a piece. And I just kept writing and writing. And within a couple months, I had a full book ready to go and found a book publisher. And unfortunately, it was published in April of 2020, which is when everyone did not want to hear that their kids should be off screens, right?
I would say.
So there's been some obstacles for sure during this journey, and that being one of them.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I know for me, especially after COVID, I feel like I've got more of a dependence on phone screens around me. And so I'm sure it kind of has proven the points in your book even more kind of coming out.
Absolutely.
And I kind of want to dive into or continue diving into the challenge of navigating tech today. You've said we're raising kids in a completely different environment than even 10 years ago. What do you see as the biggest challenge today with these different cultural changes and its impact on kids' mental health?
I think there is this idea, I mean, there's a couple of things, but one is really and truly, we all depend on technology. Technology is truly needed now, not necessarily to survive physically, but in today's society, we all need the internet. We need our Wi-Fi to work. We need our phones to be charged, and we need to use it to get things done and be productive. And I think that's a beautiful thing, that we have conveniences and we can be more efficient. However, with that comes, it's a double-edged sword. With that comes all the harms of social media and internet usage. And kids today, or kids in general, teenagers, adolescents, they just want to connect. That is truly a natural and healthy desire and developmentally on course. It's how they connect and what they're doing to connect. And also going into it with that innocent desire, but then kind of falling into some of the harms that come with these platforms. And then add in AI now, which I'll be completely honest, I've been so scared to dive into. But I'm recently trying to educate myself more, research more, and AI is a new level of problems that we're going to have to face, or we are facing. And then I think also there's this societal expectation that kids, little ones, are supposed to be well-behaved all the time and quiet. And it puts a lot of pressure on parents when they go out in public because they don't want to disturb anyone. And a surefire way to keep a toddler quiet is to give him a screen. So I understand the conveniences of it. And like I said, I was that mom with the toddlers, making sure that things were just easy. But I've always said that the short-term inconvenience is so much better than the long-term heartache that is headed your way if you raise your kids dependent on devices in that way.
Totally. That's good. And what would you say the biggest challenge, or what's the biggest thing that you would, when you talk to parents, would be that they need to look out for or be thinking of or talking to their kids about?
I mean, there's so many. I don't know if I can pick like one big challenge, but I do know the pressure for kids to get a smartphone is really strong because all their friends have it, or even playing video games that I think parents really want to give benefit of the doubt to technology, that it can't be that bad, or they'll be fine, or they need to learn how to use it because we all use it in the real world. But I think it's such a tricky chess game to play. I don't know if that's the right analogy to use, but it's really hard to know what kids can handle it, what can't, different ages, different maturity levels, and what they're being exposed to and how they're going to react to that. You don't always know how your 12-year-old might react to something when your 13-year-old reacts completely differently. So I think that there's no clear answer and there's no clear guide, and every family has to look at it from their own foundational philosophy and what they feel is important. And I will say that kids growing up with screens in their face to help them stay quiet or to calm down does such a huge disservice to their mental health because they don't actually ever learn how to self-regulate without the screen. And so we want to provide opportunities for our kids to struggle, which is also very hard for a parent. Parents we hate it. We feel it in our hearts when our kids are struggling. So the idea of allowing that and just stepping back a little bit and not providing a instant fix is very hard to do as a parent. However, it's the best thing we can do for our kids so that when they hit those hormonal years or even college and they're young and trying to find themselves, they are able to do that with more confidence and strength than if they have grown up depending on a device their whole life.
Yeah, that's good. For me personally, I feel like a lot of it also boils down to like, it's okay to be bored or for your kids to be bored.
Right.
I remember like road trips with the family, and I would be watching the water droplets on the...
I tell people that story all the time because one of my boys, not long ago was like, Mom, my raindrop won. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he was like, they were racing and I picked the one that won. And I thought that was so sweet.
Oh, yeah.
That's one of our family rules, is that no one has devices out in the car. We don't have iPads or anything like that, but my oldest does have a phone now. And then my husband and myself obviously have phones. So one of our family rules is that we're not scrolling phones in the car or even listening to our own music with AirPods. And not so much that because every single car ride there's going to be tons of conversation, but more of just giving your brain a chance to ponder and think and look out the window. And then if something does come up or a good song comes on and y'all want to bond over it, just opens that conversation.
Yeah. Now, and kind of shifting gears slightly, I know you see families every day. Are there any patterns that you're seeing tied to like anxiety, depression, suicide, ideation?
When it comes to devices, yes. And so what I've seen the most of is that looking for that instant fix, that immediate gratification. And as we all know as adults, there's no instant fix to emotional distress, not therapy, not medication. And so when they're looking for that instant fix, that's a lot of times those dark thoughts can come in, and just the inability to cope through it. But also the amount of time they spend on devices, whether they're playing Roblox or they're snapping friends all the time or scrolling TikTok, the amount of dopamine that they're getting in their brain is not a healthy amount for any human to truly process appropriately. And so it heightens anxiety for a lot of kids. And then the things that you're seeing online too. It's easy to fall into the comparison trap and then feel bad about yourself. If your self-worth is connected to your digital identity, then it's going to be really hard to not feel depressed or not feel anxious at times. And so when I have teenagers who roll their eyes because their mom heard about me and needed her to come and see Tessa and learn all the things with screens, and I start talking about it and she starts rolling her eyes, I know in that instant that her self-worth is connected too much to her digital identity. And the idea of not spending as much time on it is really, really uncomfortable for that teenager.
Big time. Well, I have family that they worked at TikTok, and she would say that all these influencers would call frantically, like crying, hysterical when their videos didn't get enough views or enough likes or enough comments, and just how frantic that was.
I believe it. Even myself, who has been in this space for over 10 years and working with teenagers, when I was publishing my book, the publisher said, you need to build a following. And so I opened up my Instagram account, trying to build followers. And it is the most exhausting part of this job, is trying to get people online to like you. And you can talk about algorithms all you want, but it does not matter. It still can affect your well-being to work so hard on some content that you know is good for people to hear or see or be exposed to, or you think it's so funny, or you think it's so creative and this one's going to go viral or whatever. You get so caught up in that. And the fact that I'm worried about whether or not it's going to go viral is bothersome to me. The fact that I'm checking how many views did this reel get. I actually recently turned my view count off on my reels because I don't want to know anymore.
Smart.
And I can still check it if I really wanted to, but I'd rather not, because I get lost in that comparison game too. And I'm an almost 40-year-old woman who is a mental health professional falling into that trap online. So I can't even imagine a 12-year-old or a 23-year-old who is truly like, that is her job or his job to be an influencer. It is very consuming.
Can you talk a little bit more about dopamine?
Yeah.
Kind of how that works for those that...
So we're supposed to get little, I call them sprinkles of joy throughout the day. We're supposed to get little dopamine drips all throughout the day. And you can get that from making your bed, from organizing your closet, from finishing a book, from smelling fresh baked cookies, from watching the sunset, all of the wonderful, beautiful things of life. Those are sprinkles of joy. And we're supposed to get little sprinkles of joy. But when we get on video games or spend too much time on those shorts or reels or go gambling or consume substances that are harmful for our brain, like alcohol and drugs, then we get what's called a dopamine dump. And that dopamine dump is so much for our brain, but it feels so good. And you just want more and more and more. And then when that dopamine is taken away from you, those little drips, they mean nothing.
Wow.
You don't care that mom just made your favorite cookies in the world. It's not enough. You don't care that you're going to see your cousin for the first time in 6 months. You're not excited about that. All you want is that big dopamine dump again. And you can only get that through really unhealthy uses of screens. And then obviously like gambling and substances.
And I know me personally, I oftentimes every Sunday when I get the screen time alert, start to feel a little guilty about my own tech habits. But how can we all model healthy behavior as we all navigate? Because our kids are watching everything that we do. How can we better model our own tech use?
So I like it when parents have their own guidelines and rules, right? So for example, I don't ever get on social media in front of my kids. So they might be home getting homework done and I go to my closet and check something on my social media, but I don't do it in front of them unless I want to show them something, because sometimes that's important too, for them to see the good, the bad, and the ugly with you there. So if you want to model some of that with them there. But overall, I don't even want to open up Facebook or Instagram or anything, because the minute I click on that icon, there's a good chance I'm going to get taken in and sucked in and stay on it way longer than I intended. So I'm not even going to open that door when my kids are home. But also narrating why you are picking up your phone can be very powerful for your kids. I remember when one of my twins was maybe 4, and he came to me and he said, "Are we going to Jackson's birthday party?" And I completely forgot about Jackson's birthday party. And he's like standing right there looking at me, and I just pick up my phone and I'm thinking, okay, where's that email, that Evite, and what time is it at, and what's the weather? I'm going through we got to go to Target to get a birthday gift and all that stuff. Well, he starts throwing a fit. And I get mad at him. No, sir, we don't behave that way. But what he didn't know was I'm trying to find the answer for him. But I also just put this device in front of me that blocks him from me. And it created this huge barrier of misunderstanding. So in that moment, I remember thinking, oh, you don't know why I picked up my phone and you feel like I'm ignoring you. Or like, what if you think I'm playing Candy Crush or scrolling TikTok? I never want my kids to feel that way. So in that moment, I vowed to narrate every single time I pick up my phone, whether I think they're listening or not. What's the weather today? Let me check my phone. Oh, I need to email your teacher because you didn't turn in that assignment yesterday, and let her know. Literally everything. And sometimes they're listening. Sometimes they're walking out the room and they don't care. But either way, it's just a good way to model that behavior.
Yeah, and probably good advice for when you're around your spouse or significant other too.
I think it's important for everyone. Like if you and I went to go get coffee and I just pick up my phone, I need to at least say like, oh my gosh, my grandmother's in the hospital. Hold on really quick while I text my mom to check in with her, right? As opposed to you talking and me just pick up my phone and do something.
Definitely.
And I know a lot of I'll throw my husband under the bus for just a second. I was trying to get him to narrate why he's picking up his phone. And every time I'd be like, hey, dude, put your phone down, or what are you doing? He'd be like, I'm answering emails. Okay, so you're doing something productive. You're not doing anything wrong. So there's this instant defense of I'm not just picking up my phone to be rude or ignore someone, but you're also not letting the people know why you're picking up your phone. So that the whole phubbing thing, that term, that's what it is. All you have to do is narrate why you're picking it up. And now my husband does narrate. He's gotten really good at it. But that was another thing we had to come up with too, was we have a code word for, can you put your phone down? Because nobody likes to say the phrase, get off your phone, nor does anybody like to hear that phrase, especially teenagers. So if you walk in the room and they're on YouTube or whatever, and you just say, get off your phone, like that, even just hearing myself say it like that is bothersome. But if as a family you come up with some sort of code word, and that code word means I'd like to sit and talk with you, or I'd like your attention, or I kind of want to know what you're doing on your phone, but it's about to be dinner time. Can you just put it down for a little bit? Can take away the nagging, and everyone's on the same page. I like it when kids can call their parents out on it too. And it's very powerful to have that in your house.
Yeah, and that kind of was a good transition into practical tools for families as they navigate. I mean, you mentioned code words, and that being super important for your family.
I am big on code words with therapeutic practices.
What is the word for the?
Oh, our word is muskrat.
Muskrat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cute.
I don't know. My oldest was maybe 8 or 9, and it was Christmas morning, and a distant family member was scrolling on their phone while they were opening up their gifts.
Ooh.
And he just loudly said, "Can everybody put their phones down? I think we need," I mean, this is just very evident that he's my son because I love code words. He's like, "I think we need a code word when we need to tell people to put their phone down." And I mean, right then and there, we came up with muskrat. And I mean, I think he came up with muskrat. And so, yeah, I mean, you will hear us in our house. Like, they will call my husband out. They'll call me out. And and if you forget to narrate, or they've walked in and you're already on your phone, that's just your chance to be like, "Hold on, I want to hear what you have to say, but I have to finish putting this in the calendar or I'm going to forget." That's your chance to explain why you are on your phone rather than getting defensive and "I'm getting work done," you know? So
yeah, it's a good reminder that they are watching and gives you that ability to narrate.
Very much.
Yeah. No, I love that. What are the 3 things families can start doing today, tomorrow, next week to build healthier tech boundaries?
So I ask families to look at how many times are they picking up their phone that might be unnecessary. For example, I was very guilty of every time I came to a stoplight, I would pick up my phone and check for text messages, emails, maybe even my social media. And that's just not necessary all the time, you know, unless you're going to change the song on your playlist or whatever, but little things like that to where you're not too dependent on your screen. And then setting up those boundaries of screen-free zones. So like maybe that I don't like devices in bedrooms at all. And it's interesting to me when parents come to me so proud, like, "Well, we've never allowed TVs in their room." And I'm like, "That's great, but where's his phone, his iPad, his computer?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, he has all that up in his room." So I personally don't think devices in bedroom is a good idea. I also think it's really important for parents to sit back and look back at the basics of what is needed within healthy living. So making sure everyone's getting good sleep, everyone's eating okay, everyone's getting physical activity, focusing more on a balanced lifestyle rather than just surviving through the motions and like, when is screen time? How much screen time are they going to get today? And that sort of thing. I also don't love screens being used as a reward. It kind of sends the wrong message.
Dive into that a little bit more.
So when we use screens for reward, it gives this idea that you can use screens in any way as long as you're a good kid. And in reality, we want to incorporate screens into the lifestyle, again, a balanced lifestyle. So it's being used to be productive. And sometimes that means, like, say you are a family that allows video games. Sometimes that means that you are going to blend in video games into the lifestyle, but it doesn't have to necessarily be that reward system. That is going to be too much dopamine, and rewarding them with basically a substance that's bad for their brain. So they're going to start to correlate that through life and expect it more and more. So you're creating this new family norm and expectation that every time I'm good, I get to play video games, when really we want our kids to build self-worth, work hard in school, be motivated for other reasons, not just for that huge dopamine dump.
You brought up a couple really great points. One of which being, I feel like we focus so much on the smartphone that sometimes we lose track of, they have a laptop, a tablet with almost same connectivity that an iPhone has.
Right.
They've got a gaming console. They've got TVs with unfiltered access to everything on Netflix that can be pretty graphic and explicit now.
Or YouTube is on TVs and TikTok's on TVs. I always tell parents, and this is something that I'm not trying to be fear-mongering, but it is something to note, that all online access equals risk.
Yep.
And so you have to look at every single device in your house and know that they can stumble onto something, and usually it's not their intention, truly. Yep. Now, if they're a little bit older and you got a sneaky one in your house, maybe that is their intention. But most of the time, they're just getting on this device to get something done or whatever, and they didn't realize they clicked on that ad or they clicked on something that they shouldn't have clicked on. And so really and truly looking at all the devices in the house. We also have, this is another like family tip, we keep all devices in communal areas. So we have a family laptop that the boys can use for projects with school, but it stays in the kitchen or sometimes in the living room if they need a little bit extra quiet. But that's it. It doesn't go up to anybody's rooms or even in my bedroom or in a bathroom or anything. It stays where anyone can see it. And that's just to help them be held accountable, make sure that they're being safe. The only YouTube we have in our house is on our family TV that's in our living room. And it has it's password. Like I have to sign them in and then I'm right there listening to what they are watching, which is always Dude Perfect, which I'm sure you love Dude Perfect.
Good Aggies.
Yep. So, and I love and hate Dude Perfect all at the same time. They're just very loud, but I do love what they stand for and what they do. And also, when my kids watch Dude Perfect, 10 times out of 10, they end up turning it off and trying to recreate a trick shot outside with the basketball. So, like, I love it. They're getting outside and doing stuff. But all that to say that we have to be very careful with all devices that our kids are on. Don't just assume that they're not going to stumble onto something or that it's safe just because it's safe. Like none of it is safe.
Yeah. And we kind of skipped over earlier on the challenges component, but I think the big thing we hear too, and the shocking stat when we share with people like at a presentation or whatever, of kids on average today are being exposed to pornography by the age of 8 years old.
Right.
And I was on the phone with some of the team at the Diocese of Arlington, Virginia the other day, and they said they see it's closer to 5 years old.
Really?
So very aligned with kind of when they're getting access to mom or dad's device or anything like that. How do you navigate that topic, and what advice would you give to parents as they navigate?
So as a mom, I've always talked to my kids about anything sex education and pornography since they were 4. And I know that's really young, and a lot of people feel that's very uncomfortable. But it's really important to create a relationship with your kids so that they think you are their main source. I mean, you want to be their main source. You don't want them to go to Google when they have a question about a private part or something they heard a kid say at lunch. And it's really important to establish that so that they know that you're not going to overreact if they bring up some word or have a question, and that you can be that safe space for them. And it's really important in today's world because they will see stuff online unintentionally, whether it's someone showing them that on the bus, which is what happened to he was 11 at the time, or like my oldest who's like hasn't been exposed to any of it yet. But it will happen. There's a 100% chance. And so they know what to do. And what they have been trained to do basically is to always come to me or my husband. They will not get in trouble.
Yep.
And then we're going to just talk through, what was that like for you? Are you doing okay? Do you need help like falling asleep at night? Like my 11-year-old, when that happened with him, he's my big emotion kiddo. Like you can definitely tell when something's off with him. And he came home on a Friday, was acting really off. Kept asking him, thought it was something with friends. He wouldn't answer. And then the next day I went to the grocery store. My husband was out of town and I get a call we have a family phone. So that's another good tip that I will circle back with. But he calls me and says, "Hey mom, I need to talk to you." And I mean, I left my cart in the aisle and I just came home super quick. Pulls me in my bedroom and he's like, "Remember how you said we can come and talk to you if we ever see something that bothers us?" Absolutely, what's up? And he tells me that a kid on the bus showed him porn and he hasn't been able to sleep for 3 days. And, he's like, "When will this leave my brain?" And I wanted to be like, "Never." But, thank you so much for telling me. And like, now I know so I can support you and help you through this situation. And if you ever need to talk it through, you can. And so he would come to me every now and then to talk about it again. He needed to process it. His little 11-year-old brain was traumatized and needed to understand what he saw and all of that. So it was a really hard time, but he's great now and we worked through it. But that's a very common situation. And we want our kids to come to us when something happens and for them to feel comfortable with you. So I'm a very big advocate of talking about sex and porn starting at a young age.
Yeah. Well, and 4 years old, as young as 4, like you said, that aligns with that 5.
That does. I didn't realize that they're seeing it that young. I mean, I know it's happened.
Yeah.
Obviously, if the average age is 8, there's going to be those younger ones too. But it makes sense too because so many of the games have ads that pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And they click on it on accident, and then all of a sudden it's in their face, And then a lot of kids, they do want to see more or they're curious, and that's natural too. So it's really important for parents to not shame their kids, but to recognize that this was a mistake. Their brain is not fully developed to stop from the impulsive click or knowing that would not, lead to something worse. And it's really actually easier to talk to them when they're younger. Instead of when they're older, because when they're older, they're like, oh, and you're kind of like this. But when they're younger, you kind of just talk about love and families and couples and married people. And you don't have to give them the whole, birds and bees conversation. But then you start to talk about pictures and what's appropriate and what's not. And that book, do I have it here? Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. It might be at home. Is a great book to read.
Totally.
Even just as a parent, just to read that so you have some sort of guide, but you can definitely read it with your kids as well. But it's very important. The pornography conversation is extremely important to have with your kids starting as young as 4 or 5.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like so much of like our recommendation of parents revolves around the conversation piece and that relational component being so important because like you said, it's not if it's going to happen now, it's when is it?
Mm-hmm.
And so definitely building that bridge of trust.
Yes, absolutely. I always say that's the most important piece is to have a good connection with your kid.
Yeah. Yeah. You mentioned family phone.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that?
So about, maybe 8 years ago now, a company sent me a simple phone.
Cool.
Can I say brands on here or would you rather me not?
Yeah, bring it on.
It was Gab that sent me a phone. I was really excited because Gab was the first that I was aware of. And I was working with so many families that they'd be like, what are we supposed to do? And I would say, I don't know, get her a flip phone, and then Gab came out. And I was like, oh my gosh, try Gab, right? I was so excited. It's the most simple phone with call and text only. And they sent me one and said, can you test this out? And I was like, well, my son's 7, so no, I'm not going to give him a phone.
Yeah.
But I just kept sitting on it. I was like, I really want to test this out. And I was like, you know what? Maybe this would be a good entry to the cell phone world by making it our family home phone.
Mm-hmm.
And they can text grandma, they can call me when I'm at work. And as they got older and stayed home alone, like they have that safety of if they need to call 911 or anything and call dad when dad's out of town. It's been really great. And so we've had it for 7 or 8 years now. And that's been our family phone that any of the boys can use. It stays in the kitchen for the most part. Sometimes they like to make videos with it of their trick shots. But other than that, it's just our family phone that they can use to text and call. And it's a really great way to teach texting etiquette and calling etiquette and just starting that process so that they learn it's for communication, not for games or social media, but just for communication. And so we've built off that. Now my 2 oldest have the Bark phone, which also is a simple phone that they can use for calling and texting. And that's worked really well too.
Yeah. I feel like the perk of this boom in tech is that we now have companies like Gab and Bark, and Trumi and Ara and others that have all popped up to help families navigate it and hopefully make it a little easier.
Yeah.
This battle. I kind of wanted to pivot from here, knowing that so many parents are overwhelmed. I mean, especially when we talk about, we expand the scope of, you don't just have to worry about the phone, but you have to worry about
everything.
Yeah, TV, laptop, everything, especially with schools, one-to-one learning, so popular today. And parents feel so far behind.
Yeah.
What encouragement would you give them?
That it really is doable And as long as you have good communication with your kids, y'all can navigate it together. It doesn't have to feel like it's you against your kid and screens. It can be you and your kids as a family facing the screen situation, the battle of screens. And so doing it all together, explaining to them why you're setting up parental controls or why you're setting up passwords on this device or whatever, so that they understand. I will tell you, as overwhelming as it is, that it's all temporary. Eventually, your kids will grow up and they will become more independent and they will become mature and responsible, where you are managing less and less on the devices. And also, eventually, they move out and they're no longer having to depend on you for everything. So it's always temporary in order for them to learn how to be on devices in a healthy way. But also, I have worked with so many kids and teenagers who they're starting off with their parents learning this. And so things are readjusting in their house. They're upset about it. But they always, I want to say 100%, but this is anecdotal. They always come back thankful and grateful that their parents stuck to it, that their parents didn't give up on them. I mean, not to, toot my own horn or anything, but just the other day, my 14-year-old, I like to check in with them and be like, how are you doing? Do you think I'm still too strict, or do you think we need to loosen up on some areas? I'm open to talk about where you guys are at, right? Do you want any more apps on your phone, or do you, all of that? And my 14-year-old and 12-year-old both go, no, Mom, like, you are guiding us. We are just following your lead. We need you to keep doing this for us because we don't want to turn out like some of the kids we know at school. And then they started naming some of the kids. I was like, yeah, I don't want you to turn like that. But it's very encouraging when your kids feel that way. But I know not a lot of kids are going to feel that way, or at least voice that. But what I do see, and they'll come in my office and they'll say, don't tell my mom I'm saying this, but I'm actually really glad she made me get rid of TikTok because I feel so much relief. I'm able to get my homework done. I'm sleeping better, all this stuff. And it really is very encouraging to hear that. So I'm here to tell you that a lot of teenagers, and then when they say, I will not let my own kids have smart devices until they're 18, or, my kid won't have social media until she leaves for college, or whatever they say. It's like, okay, because you agree, so that's very helpful. But I think the biggest thing for parents, and I have to remind myself of this too, is that everything is temporary and we can do anything as long as it's temporary, and we can do it with strength and confidence and get through it, and then pat ourselves on the back when we're through it.
Amen. If you're a teen who has a ton of access to technology and is already sucked in, what advice would you give them?
When I work with teenagers, I usually help validate that they are probably having an emotional reaction to something, because as humans, we relate to anything that we consume. So if there's a sad song on or a movie on, we feel that as humans, right? But definitely on devices, scrolling TikTok or YouTube Shorts, you're going to see, there's 100% chance you're going to see something that either makes you feel like you're not good enough, you're missing out on something, or it's actually horrific and traumatic for you to have seen, or it's going to ignite anxiety, whether it be a tragedy or news segment. And so it is okay to put your phone down and not be in the know with all the things all the time, and to look at your lifestyle to create more balance. I work with a lot of teenagers to talk about their physical needs, their social needs, and their emotional needs, so that we can integrate tech and screens appropriately, but priorities are not what's online, but in real life.
That's good. And then on the flip side, if you're a student whose parents have restricted and not given access to a smartphone or other tech, what advice would you give them?
I tell them that it's all temporary. You will have a chance to prove to your parents that you can handle tech. They're not ready for it yet because they're uncomfortable, and they should be uncomfortable. But over time, if you act and behave in a mature way and work on prioritizing your physical, emotional, and social needs, and really build that communication with your parents, they will eventually put down some reins and be more comfortable with you online. But it might be in small increments, and that's the healthiest way to do it. So you have to trust your parents' judgment, but also know that you will have access. You are not going to be locked away in a tower forever. You will get the chance to have your own accounts and manage your devices on your own. You just have to get there and prove to your parents you're ready.
Absolutely. We also hear from parents of the challenge and the chaos that breaks out when they try to take away a device or pull them away from Roblox or Minecraft or whatever it is. What advice would you give them?
So anything that creates these huge outbursts and tantrums and the behavior that is angry and irritable and really creates that dynamic in your house, there's something unhealthy about it. So we have to look at that piece first and really recognize, what are we actually giving our kids access to, and what is it doing to their mental health and their overall well-being? And it might be a sign that there's too much time on the screen, or they shouldn't have access to it at all. I know that's uncomfortable for a lot of parents as well, but anything that creates a toddler tantrum reaction is not supposed to happen that way. So we want to relook at all of that. Something that I like to help families do is something that I call PR, which is not a creative name. So if you have a good name, let me know. Okay. So you have a conversation, and that's the prep work. So you have a conversation with your kiddo saying, hey, buddy, I noticed that every time you get off Roblox, you get really angry and you throw the remote, and we don't like that behavior. So we want to see you do better next time. Let's come up with a plan. Is there something? And this is another time you could use a code word, right? Like, hey, I see you getting frustrated. So, SpongeBob or whatever, code word you come up with, so that it reminds them in that moment, because they're lacking that prefrontal cortex that's telling them to calm down too. And if they're on screens a lot, then they're not good at self-regulating either. So that prep work is really important. So tomorrow we're going to do better. Tomorrow, let's see how you do. We're a team. We're going to get through this together. Then tomorrow, when they get on the device, you remind. So prep, remind. It's very similar to potty training. You just have to remind all the time, like, hey, how are we going to act today when we're on Roblox? Hey, remember what we talked about last night? Hey, remember we talked about it again this morning? Constantly reminding. So say they do a teensy bit better. They don't throw the remote this time. They just huff and puff and get mad. That's an improvement. So you want to praise. So that's the second P, is you praise. Even if they didn't do that great, you praise at the end of the day. And then the second R is repeat. So prep, remind, praise, repeat. That's good for any behavioral issue you have with your children. But really and truly, they might be getting too much screen time or unhealthy use if that's their reaction every time. And when I get families that come in here and their 15-year-old is doing that, 15-year-olds are not supposed to be having these tantrums. 9-year-olds are not supposed to be having these. Neurotypical kids are not supposed to be having these tantrums from something being taken away from them, especially if the parent has warned them, hey, 5 more minutes, 2 more minutes, right? But the devices, especially video games, are built to suck them in and get them addicted. And so, of course, they don't want to stop playing. So we have to look at the whole environment that we want for our family and the family norm. And that might mean readjusting screen time altogether.
So good. I just am so appreciative of you taking the time and sharing all these insights with us. You're the mom therapist on Instagram and social media. And then would love to recommend people to get your book for the sake of our youth. But if there's one single quick takeaway that parents could have from today's conversation, what would it be?
I guess I will just kind of piggyback off of what I was just saying, is that it is all worth it. It is 100% worth it to stay on top of it. And I have felt defeated and I have felt exhausted. And there have been times when I'm like, just let them go play Nintendo all day, or just let them get whatever they want on their devices. But I'm so thankful that I quickly turn around and say, no, we got to keep fighting this fight, because it is for the well-being of their mental health, their whole generation. We're going to be raising kids who can make a difference in this world. We don't want to raise a whole generation that's going to be similar to the movie WALL-E, where they're just kind of dodo brains walking around, don't know, left from right. And I think it's important that we kind of grasp that and take it and protect our kids.
Absolutely. Oh, thank you.